If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard in Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Welcome to PWZ, the Pro Wrestle Zone. This is Rick. As always, Dan is joining me, and today we have a very special guest in Mr. Technical, Barry Horowitz. How are you, sir?
Rick and Dan, I'm doing good, and I'm ecstatic to be on the zone. I feel honored and privileged.
Thank you very much. How you been holding up in these days, the last, 9-10 months during the pandemic?
Well, I've been keeping somewhat busy on a scale of 1 to 10, a 5. When it was at an 11, I was a lot of cancellations. In fact, I was supposed to be going to Seattle in a few weeks, and that got postponed till January. And, of course, the WrestleMania in my hometown of Tampa really, that would have made the rest of my year. I had 4 big shows lined up from Thursday to Sunday. Yeah, and they were big, real big. And, what are you going to do?
Everybody's taking a toll. I know I'm working from home nowadays. It's not, it's getting less and less busy. You know what I mean? So it's unfortunate. So I'd like to basically run over your career and what you're doing today.
Sure.
Basically. So I saw you trained under the Boris Maleko, the Great Maleko. How did that come about?
Wow, great question. You know what? Since my age of about 14 or 15, I wanted to be a pro wrestler, and I wanted to do it right. You know, there's a lot of people, and I'm not knocking it, but they just go from being a bouncer or being a football player right to a pro wrestler. I just wanted to do the steps and paying my dues, and I started in an amateur program at a youth center, and then I went through high school and college, and I just thought it builds good character. It's a good institution. And sometimes it pays off in pro wrestling as far as people like Bob Backlund and Kurt Angle, especially Brad Rangans. And then you have some amateurs that they can't adapt. They just can't do it. Brock Lesnar did well. Props to him. There's a lot that did well. And I just wanted to build that foundation of my house, and so to speak. And it was very hard back then to get into pro wrestling because it was very kayfabed, hush-hushed.
Right.
They would try, in Tampa, they break your leg to discourage you. They want to see how tough you were. And a friend of a friend, I'd like to mention his name. He's passed, but his name is Lenny Greenberg, and he's an entrepreneur here he was in right in Hillsborough, actually the Tampa Bay region. And for some reason, I got to meet him. He liked me. I liked him. Maybe there was a Jewish thing there. I don't know, but I'm happy. And he introduced me to some businessmen. And then through his networking, he knows a plethora of people.
Right.
And it didn't even have nothing to do with him, but he wanted to do good for me. And he got me basically like an interview or a hookup to meet the Great Maleko in Tampa, Florida. I met him at a judo academy. And the judo academy was owned by, if I'm getting this right, Ed Haley. The man is a judo expert, like Olympic quality, this man. And he owned this, it was a judo school. And basically, you're in a room that only held probably, it was just a good sized room, maybe hold 20 people, but enough to put mats down. And that's how I was taught for 6 months on the mats. I met Mr. Malenko. I was started to go 3 times a week. I'd work a part-time job. I'd hit the weights. I'd get there about 6 or 7. You'd stay 2 or 3 hours. In the winter, it was about 40 degrees. It was a mattress warehouse. Excuse me, I'm jumping the gun. We graduated to the mattress warehouse from the mats
Right.
to a ring. But for the first 6 months, it was in that school. And we went to the mattress warehouse, and then in the summer it was like 100 degrees, and we'd be there. I'd be there 3 times a week, 3 hours, and I did that consistently for about a year and a half. I mean, I was training with the Great Maleko, his sons. He would bring in lucha libre wrestlers. He would bring in UK wrestlers, and probably the most famous was the great Carl Gotch.
Oh, wow. I'm a fan
Yeah.
of his. I watched a
I
lot
think
of
I
his
almost
work in
got my arm
Japan.
broken that
Yeah.
night. I
Wow.
didn't sell his arm bar, and he made sure I sold
Make
it.
sure you did. Yeah.
I mean, he just tweaked it an inch, and it was sore for a week. So that's all right. He didn't. You know what do they say? What doesn't kill you makes you or breaks
Makes you
you.
stronger. Yeah.
Yeah, makes you stronger. And so that was the beginning. And I like the way I see the way people are trained now, and nothing against it, but it's like really quick.
Right.
I mean, you really gotta to hone your craft, and I don't care if you're an athlete or not, you got to get in wrestling shape. There's a difference, and build your body properly, and learn everything. Learn how to get in a ring. Learn to
Right.
the ropes and so forth. It's not all about promos and high flying. That comes later. That's when you get polished down the road.
Right.
So that's just a smidgen of my humble beginnings.
So I said after, I think, 18 months, you said that you
Yep. Mm-hmm.
training and you made your debut in 79 into the independent circuit of Florida. What was the Florida indie scene like at that particular time?
Oh, well, it was all booked by Malenko, and we would all travel together, or 2 vans. And it was weird. Like, if you did an indie show, you had a hush hush. It was kayfabe because the main promoter was Eddie Graham, Mike Graham, Florida Championship Wrestling. You were bucking the system. Now it doesn't matter. But I had to play low key kayfabe. Hey, who trained you? And you got to make up stuff, and they would discourage you. I remember I was training one time at this free weight gym in St. Pete, where I'm from, St. Petersburg, Florida. And I'll never forget Buzz Sawyer, which he's been long gone.
Right.
Actually, we went to the same high school. He was just a better wrestler than me. He was flawless. He was never beaten. I remember him coming to the gym. He didn't physically do anything. I was just, for some reason, he came into the gym, and there was a staircase outside. You go up the stairs into the gym. It was real old school. And I don't know what happened. He came in there with Tommy Rogers was his cousin, a.k.a. Tom Couch. I think he passed away also.
A couple years ago, yeah.
Yeah, these guys live fast life.
Yeah.
Unlike kind of the opposite of me, and nothing against him. I'm just being honest.
Right.
But he goes, I forgot what he said. You need to quit wrestling for that group and this and that. He was like, sent there to discourage me or whatever. I mean, never touched me, nothing like that. I think there was some respect there. I think he was fairly new to the business himself. So maybe he was just, maybe somebody told him or he did it on his own. But yeah, you just had to be careful. And I just remember a couple of shows. My biggest thing was, I think, a TV in Jacksonville at a TV studio. Don Curtis was in charge, and it was Sunbelt Wrestling. Yeah, it was pretty interesting because they had Chief Jay Strongbow there as Joe. Oh God,
is it Scarpa?
Yeah,
not by his real name. Yeah.
Yeah, Joe Scarpa and Boogie Woogie Van. Jimmy Valiant was there, and Austin Idol.
Right.
It was pretty cool. So that's what I was basically doing then. And then, of course, I was ready to. Now I'm ready to hit the road. You could only learn so much at the Indies and doing TV matches to get polished. So Malenko gave me this long list. Had Don Owens in Oregon. It had Carlos Colon in Puerto Rico. It had Stu Hart in Calgary. It had Monsoon in the WWF when Vince Sr.
Right.
was in charge. And basically, I just had nothing going. I just, let me get this right. I got in the car and I drove to New Jersey because that was a good hub to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a house cheap to rent and so forth. And I called Monsoon at his home from a phone booth on the beach in Belmar. And here I am, 20 years old, 21, thinking I'm going to work a veteran. Like, oh, yeah, I've been working for years, sir. And first of all, I couldn't believe he answered his phone at his house. And, well, come to TV. We run it every 3 weeks at Allentown and Hamburg. And we'll see what you could do. So that's how that got started. So I kind of bluffed my way in, but I think what kept me in was my ability and my accountability and my loyalty, that it wasn't some punk kid jack off. And I was hitting the gym. I was doing everything they wanted. I'd go with the ribs. I did everything, and I think it worked for me. I really do.
So I actually didn't know until I was doing the research that you had worked for Vince Sr. For the Worldwide Wrestling Federation.
Yes.
What was that like as compared to later working for Vince Jr.?
Well, I only saw Vince Sr. every 3 weeks, and he was very businesslike, and he was just all business, and he didn't hang out with the guys too much. Maybe the main event, people like Backlund, Don Morocco,
Right. Yep.
Jesse Ventura. So I went in there one time. I mean, I was at TVs for over a year, and I said, man, I'm 21 years old. I got to hit the road. And I went into there and asked him, could you send me somewhere? I'd appreciate it. And I don't know if I had to check with him once or twice, but I was originally supposed to go to Portland, Oregon through Jimmy Snuka, through Don Owens. And it didn't work out. They were full. And I got to go to Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, owned by Crockett Promotions.
Right.
And that was the move of my life, because I was there for 2 solid years, working 5 and 6 nights a week, covering Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina in a car. And the only time we flew was once a month to Toronto, Canada. I would go there with Mike Rotunda and Johnny Weaver. I've traveled with the likes of Valentine, Orton Jr., Ric Flair, Angela Mosca Sr., Jr., Rufus R. Jones, Jimmy Valiant. I mean, the list, anybody who was anybody, the Briscoes went through Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. And it really got me polished. It got me to, everybody had to stay till the end, especially baby faces. If you're on first or second, Crockett wanted you to stay to the end to watch every match. It worked for me. And that was like homework for me. And I'd watch different people, Flair, Steamboat, Youngblood. I've traveled with these gentlemen. And just kept my mouth shut and just listened. And it really worked. It worked well for me.
I was actually watching some, and I know that you went under the name Jack Hart at one point, and
Yes.
then you were working under the name Bret Hart briefly as well. How did that come about at that time? I know Bret was primarily working Canada still. That's pretty much before he came to the United States. So how did that happen?
Well, the original was Barry Hart. That's what Maleko gave me the name Barry Hart. When I went to Crockett back then, you got Barry Hart babyface, Gary Hart heel manager.
Gotcha.
We don't want confusion. And I think who decided that was Michael Hayes, if I'm not mistaken, one of the bookers. Let's call you Jack Hart. Right away, I'm thinking, oh, cool, Jack Hart, Jack Briscoe. I'm an idol of Jack Briscoe. My name's Jack now. So I didn't care anyway. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I take that back.
That's all right.
There's so many things that go back.
All right.
It was, let me get this right. It was Gary Hart, Barry Hart. Let's call you Bret Hart.
Okay.
Michael Hayes says this. I don't know there's another Bret Hart. And I just thought that was a cool name.
Right.
So, it was kind of cool, but it worked for me a little bit. And I went to Maple Leaf Gardens, and this wrestler called Sweet Daddy Siki, I think he wrestled for Stu, but maybe he thought I resembled. he's buttering me up, this guy, like I'm Stu's son. And I'm going, I just went along with it. I mean, what are you going to do? I didn't know. But I don't think too many people made anything of it.
Right.
And it was just weird that I didn't know who the real Bret Hart was. And it went full circle with that because, make a long story short, when I left that promotion, Jay Youngblood called Dutch Mantell up. He was the booker, Florida Championship Wrestling, for me to come home, I was ecstatic. First of all, I'm going on the TV that I grew up on. I'm going to the Sportatorium in Tampa. I'm going to get pushed. I'm going to win the Florida title from Mike Graham in his hometown. This doesn't happen to people. It only happens to people, that are from there, which I am, but Steve Kern and Brian Blair and Hulk Hogan, the real Floridians. So when I left there, we can't call you Bret Hart. He said, we got to change that name. And that's where, again, I don't know if Michael switched there or not, or had to do with Mike Graham, but that's when they called me Jack Hart.
Okay.
That's where that came from.
You mentioned Sweet Daddy Siki. There's been a documentary that came out recently. Have you had a chance to see that? Yeah, it came out.
I met the man once.
Oh man, it's I don't know if you use Amazon Prime at all. It's on there and you can view it, and it's really good. I just watched it last week.
Really?
I got in touch with the director of the film, Greg Oliver, and he's going to be on actually next week. So I'm really looking forward to that. It was a really good documentary for somebody that I didn't really grow up with him. I really enjoyed it. It moves really smoothly as a documentary. I highly recommend that film. Seriously.
Wow.
If you like watching documentaries like that. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Just jump track real quick.
Sure.
I will be on the WWE Network coming up. It's either, let's see, it's either the 13th or the 16th, and I'll be. I got a cameo spot on there. They're interviewing me about Goldberg's streak because I was part of it.
Okay, yeah, I did see that coming up. Yeah.
Sometime next year, I'll be on the WWE Network, and they're doing basically a 2-hour backstory of Barry Horowitz. So
That's awesome.
I'm really looking. That one I'm really looking forward to. It was done tasteful. It was done here in Florida, and it was nice of them to remember me, contact me, and it was a full day of interviews, and I'm really looking forward to see the editing and the finished product. So I just wanted to slip that in there real quick.
Yeah, that's great. I'm looking forward to that. They do a really good job on the interviews, documentaries that they have on their network. Mm-hmm. So, Dan, do you have anything?
Yes, sir. So, Barry, during your tenure down in Florida, you happened to be managed by Percy Pringle. How's that like being managed by Percy, and was there any knowledge that he passed down to you that you later took on in your wrestling career?
Yeah, well, I was flattered that I had a manager and that I was being pushed as a heel, and that I get to do promos. And basically, his best suggestions were just interviews a little bit. Gordon Soley helped me a lot too. I mean, I had the heel thing down, but I was still green at that, and I had to perfect that and get polished with that. But they gave me helpful suggestions, and both of them were really good, especially Gordon, because, Gordon Soley's tops in my book. When it comes to hardcore commentating, in my eyes, in this order, I would say it is Jim Ross, Gordon Soley, and Tony Schiavone. And I'm going to have to throw in Excalibur. He's incredible.
I like him. Yeah, I like him a lot.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You went to Memphis as well. This is another thing I didn't know. Because, I watched a lot of Memphis. I did get some Memphis up here temporarily in Connecticut on TV, but not for too long. As Stretcher Jack Hart. How long were you down there? Because I couldn't find a whole lot of information on it.
6 or 7 months. They treated me pretty good. I will say I have some favorite promoters, and Jerry Jarrett is in my top 5. He treated me very nice. I like Jerry. He was an agent in the WWF and treated me with respect. He was always nice to me. He's a smart man. He knows wrestling. He's a good behind the scenes uh, as far as directing and doing different things in the wrestling business that people don't think of. And I got to give him a lot of props. He treated me good. They put the Southern Tag belts on myself and Chick Donovan. We defeated Soul Train Jones and Rocky Johnson.
All right.
Rest in peace, Rocky. Rocky Johnson, he's a great guy. Yeah, he's sadly missed. And and then I guess that TV, somebody saw it, and I got a phone call to come back to the WWF, and it was pretty, it was a great move because they basically said, well, you're not going to be, part of the Hart Foundation or nothing, and we're going to change your name to Barry Horowitz, but you'll be enhancement, but you'll make a lot more money. And I mean, my first check, I worked 7 days in a row for Memphis. 4 were main event, 3 were semi. And what I made in a week was 7 times more than that. Wow. And I said, yeah, I think I made the right move.
So I was going to say, so you ended up coming back to the WWF back in 1987. Now, one of these matches, very favorable of mine, but I'm sure you get this a lot as well. But back on August 13th, 1988, in the LA Sports Arena, you ended up taking on the Blue Angel, also known as Owen Hart. Now, how was it like facing someone of Owen's caliber? And what do you remember most about Owen?
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, wow. I was the first person to wrestle Owen. It started back in Bristol, Tennessee, Viking Hall, TV. Jay Strongbow comes up to me. You're going to come with me to the airport, and we're going to pick up Owen Hart, and you're going to work with him tonight. I said, oh. I get there. Owen's got a really nice leather jacket on. He was very polite and stuff. But Owen was very young, and he was a spoiled promoter's kid and going over every night. So he had to get out of that. Now, I'm not knocking him. This is this is the truth. And we get to the building. He wants to go out and rehearse the match. I go, whoa, Owen, we don't do that here. I said, the fans may be coming in, and I had to pull the reins back. And he didn't know who I was, I don't think. Maybe he didn't look at film, or maybe he didn't get the matches, or maybe he just thought I was some guy that's just a rag doll, and that's far from the truth. So, Owen, we wrestled, according to the internet, which I don't believe anything the internet says. I've wrestled Owen Hart more than anybody ever, because I wrestled every one of his gimmicks. You name it, I did it. So we really had good matches, and Owen respected me. I respected him, and he changed. He's a family man. He had a great family. Owen was a great technical worker. Owen was doing flips and these different little things you see on AEW 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
Because I know. I worked with him and did these things, and I loved working with him. We had great matches. And he's never hurt me. He was just a really good guy, and it's a travesty and a tragic story that it should have never happened, because Owen is the type of person also. I mean, he's professional, he's a go-getter, but he's also no is no. Mm-hmm. That night should have been no, because first of all, it wasn't a built-up match. Even if it was, it wasn't that caliber. It was Owen Hart going against the Pimp Master or whatever.
Godfather, I think, right? Yeah.
If you can't work, it's nice to fly from the ceiling to cover up that you can't work, but not taking that away, because I've seen Sting come from the ceiling. I've seen Shawn Michaels, and they're both accomplished workers. Mm-hmm. But you really don't need to do that with Owen. He would have got the same reaction running to the ring. But if it was me, I would have tested it better and made sure everything was good. But I would have had him land in the ring and get the heel on him, so he can't get out of the thing. And the heels and all of a sudden, it comes apart. Owen makes a big comeback, goes home and beats him. 10 minutes, done. People would have went nuts.
Yeah.
But anyway, it didn't happen. It was really a horrible thing because I was packing my bag Sunday night to go to Monday Night Nitro. And that was really, I was stunned. I was flabbergasted. I later, in years, maybe a year later, I went to that building, Kemper Arena in Kansas City. I went there early, and I just looked at the catwalk and to the ring. That's a hell of a drop, guys.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That's a scary friggin' drop. And it's just, it's a shame the way it was all handled. Matches should have stopped. Owen should be in a Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
It's just, there's a guy that did all the that did everything right, and he was different. He was a different kind of technical wrestler, and it's a shame because he was in his 30s, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he got to enjoy his kids the way he wanted to.
Right.
And
from what I read, he was getting set to just kind of get out of the business and go look for another career so he could spend time with his family, so he could enjoy them before he got too old and they got too old. Yeah, sorry.
He made that much money and he saved it. He didn't squander it away into bars and have personal issues and demons and addictions. So what he would have did was probably settled in Calgary and did something. He's a smart guy. He really is. He's a jokester and everything, but he is a smart guy. And it's a shame because if you think about it right now, I don't know all of them, but I think almost everybody in the Hearts are not alive anymore. I think some of his brothers are, and I saw Brett in March at a meet and greet in Albany, New York.
Yep.
And it's just a shame. His parents passed, and his kids are grown up, and I think his wife is a doctor or a lawyer.
Yeah, something like that. It sounds familiar. I know she was in the she was at part of that Dark Side of the Ring. I'm not, she was interviewed for that, but I don't really recall. Yeah. Speaking of Owen, I actually saw you two work in the Springfield Civic Center, Springfield, Massachusetts. So that was probably the second show I ever attended as a kid. So my first was in the New Haven Coliseum for a TV taping, probably earlier in the year for Superstars. So I don't really remember a whole lot because we were there for a very long time. So, let's see what else we got. Dan, do you have something else?
And, also, speaking of Owen, while we're on this topic, you were also part of the 1993 Survivor Series team when you were dressed as the Red Knight, taking on the Hearts. Now, how did that come about?
Oh, God. You're hitting some good stories here now. Wow. I love it. Everybody under contract has to be at every show, especially pay-per-views.
Oh, really?
It should be that way. You're getting paid, and you just never know when something's going to happen. And it was my lucky day, Boston Gardens, and I was told to, let's see, let me get exact. I think I had to shave my beard and just make it a goatee, and we're going to fit you for a chinless mask. You're taking Terry Funk's place. Well, I'm honored. Terry Funk is a living legend and an icon in the wrestling business. I've watched him since I was a kid. Everybody looks at Terry Funk as hardcore. You should have watched tapes of NWA World Heavyweight Champion Terry Funk with a 22-inch neck and a wrestling heel. He's a machine.
He was a great technical wrestler back in those days. Him and his brother. Yeah.
And great promos.
Yeah.
Great promos. But so then I hear the story, and I'm pretty sure this is true. Why isn't Terry here, and why is he missing this? He calls Vince up. Don't quote me on this, but I've been told when you hear a wrestling story 2 or 3 times where there's smoke, there's fire. Telephone, telegraph, tell a wrestler. Terry Funk calls up Vince and says, "Can't make the pay-per-view. My horse is sick."
Okay.
Now think about it. If you're Terry Funk and he's got some prize horses like Terry Bradshaw does, and
Right.
you're somebody like or George Strait in Texas, that's a lot of money. That's more than a wrestling payday. And to Terry Funk, he's been in bigger shows than that. Okay,
Right. Yep.
so yeah, that's what I was told. I don't know. I don't know why it would be made up, but yeah, that's what I was told. But I was happy. I was in there to
Yeah.
main event. I was the Red Knight, and that carried on for about 6 months. I
Yeah.
got to do it at house shows and spot shows, and it was really cool being the Red Knight. I first time and last time I ever wore a mask, and it was pretty cool.
I do want to backtrack a tiny bit. It said
Sure.
back in 1989, somebody had a tryout with WWF, and they put you over. Future MMA legend Ken Shamrock. Tell me about this, because this is literally the first time I've ever heard it. Obviously, it was a dark match. So tell me how this, was he actually known as Ken Shamrock, or was he using the Vince Torelli gimmick at the time period? Because I remember watching him work for South Atlantic Pro under the Vince Torelli gimmick. Probably around the same.
Not too many people know that story or that name.
Right.
You're only the second person that's called that name. I'm the third. I went to Greensboro Coliseum house show for Vince.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Lanza was the agent. I got this kid here. We're going to have a dark match with him. Throw him around, see if he could bump. We'll put you over with a small package. Sell for him, do this. Just basically, and I've did it many times. I've did it for the Smoking Guns. I've did it for any type of tryout. I was involved. Normally, I was involved in Bob Holly's tryout or a tag tryout. Me and Reno Riggins would try the Smoking Guns out, or God, I remember trying out that kid. They pushed him in WCW. I think he passed away also. The Mortimus.
I remember the name. Oh, was that Chris Canyon?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Strange individual.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Nice guy.
the Mortimus gimmick was pretty cool, but yeah, different tryouts. So I said, okay. So I went out there, and I think he was wearing red trunks or green trunks. Looked pretty good. I don't think it was. I thought it was a pretty decent match, and I think I went over. I don't know how long we went. Maybe 10 minutes. Jack Lanza liked it, and I don't think saw him ever again though until they brought him back in '95 and put the IC title on him.
Yeah, that was about 6 years later. And
yeah,
I know he wrestled in Japan here and there, and then, obviously got into MMA where he made his name. So I just thought that was very interesting, because I was familiar with him, under the Torelli gimmick for South Atlantic Pro, because I love that show. I thought that was a great show to watch. Another thing is, I know this is probably an oddball question. You made an appearance for Herb Abrams' UWF. I saw this. Do you recall this? I just found that really odd. So what was that like, working with Herb for that? I don't know if that one evening. There's a lot of crazy stories about Herb and, the Universal Wrestling Federation.
I never met Herb Abrams in my life, and not that I recall. Sunny Beach got me booked, and to this day we're friends. Sunny Beach is a great guy. He was in No Holds Barred with Stan Hansen and Hulk Hogan, and he wrestled in All Japan. He worked for Vince.
Mm-hmm.
Sonny owns a very highfalutin security company in Long Island, and it is incredible. It is he is doing better out of the wrestling business than he was when he was in it. He's very successful. We always keep in touch. In fact, I owe him a phone call. He called me a couple days ago, but really a good guy. And that's how I got booked. And I only did, I don't know if I did one or two shows, because I remember working a couple times, because I remember working one time against the Night Stalker, a.k.a. Adam Bomb. AKA
was it Brian Adams? Was that
Brian
who that
Adams?
was?
Thank you.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. I don't even know what happened to him as far as the wrestling business. Had a good look. His work was all right. It's a pretty cool idea, teaming him and Crush together. I thought that was a good idea.
I thought they were a good team. Yeah.
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 So that's what happened with the Herb Abrams thing. I don't remember any controversy. I don't remember anything except I think I drove when I was living in Nashville to Spartanburg, South Carolina. And I may have did one or two shows, but that's about it. I wish
Yeah.
I may have been busy with other things, so that's why I didn't really have to rely on that.
Right. I mean, they would run shows. They would run shows and then stop running shows for a little while and then pick back up, so stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. In 1990, you left WWF and went to WCW. I guess you wrestled your last match in WWF against Mark Young, aka Vincent Young, which was that Strongbow's son? Am I correct?
His son or his stepson? I'm not.
Yeah.
What a good kid, and he was catching on really well. I actually left there from a neck injury.
Okay.
So I was out 11 months. It was supposed to come back, but you think all that loyalty and practically, literally broke my neck for the business, and they paid me somewhat, but they could have brought me back. But their excuse was, well, we hired Pistol Pez Watley and Black Bart, and I'm going, okay, you can't fit me in there. So I went to WCW, and that was okay. I mean, what was cool about that was you got paid pretty good for not working a lot. I mean,
right.
I mean, a trickle of house shows, but mostly I was doing Nitros, Thunders, and Saturday nights. And then it got trimmed down to just Saturday nights. And I did a Halloween Havoc, too, also.
Now, in 1990, for WCW, you got teamed up with Moondog Rex. And it seemed like you were about to get like a little bit of a push. And then you got, it seemed like you assisted in a win and attacked Terry Taylor one week. You don't remember? I just watched this last night, actually.
I don't remember that.
You don't? And then the following week on TV, it was you and Moondog Rex against Terry Taylor and Tommy Rich.
For what company?
For WCW. This is 1990.
Wow.
I literally just watched this. I'm not making this up.
Wow, I don't recall that.
No, I mean, I thought that it seemed, and I remember watching this as a kid when it happened, but I went back and watched it, and I thought that it looked like you were about to get a push, and then I think you left, and we're back in WWF within, relatively quickly, it seemed.
Yeah, that's. I just really don't. I don't remember that one, and I'm pretty good with my memory. I mean, it's sometimes it escapes me, but for the most part, I'm pretty spot on, and I do not remember that program, that situation.
Really? No. All right.
Now, also around that time in WCW, you ended up facing guys like Brian Pillman. Now, was it true when people said that Brian was ahead of his time when it came to his arsenal of moves?
Yes. Brian always looked good. Good-looking guy. He always looked good. His body, his work was solid. What impressed me was he's the first guy I ever saw to do the launch up to the top rope and follow it with a clothesline.
Right.
Now, AJ Styles has almost upped that with his flying elbow. I mean, the height on that is incredible. There's another wrestler, AJ Styles. I mean, solid worker. I'm glad they made him heel and changed up his thing.
Right.
He's got a plethora of holds. He's been around a while.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. But Pillman was he was ahead of his time with different things, and the trunks representing Cincinnati Bengals.
Right.
Really, really cool. I always got along with him. Loved working with him because it was my type of match. I mean, I'll wrestle any way you want. I can adapt. I'm not a limited wrestler.
Right.
Because I always wanted to be that way. Not that guy that I could change a finish. I don't want to be limited. I could change this finish. I could change that. That's a sign of a good worker.
Right. So you ended up going to Global, working for Joe Pedicino and such. What did you think of Global Wrestling Federation? Did you think it was really going to take off and be something? You ended up winning the light heavyweight title as well, two occasions.
Well, the cool part was I was working indies. I was working for Vince. And I was going there on Friday night. I think, yeah, did we do it Friday night? I think we drove there. They'd pay for the rent-a-car. They'd pay for the hotel and food. And I drove from Nashville to Dallas with 2 other wrestlers. And I did that for about a year. You'd stay over. And it was financially a good thing to do. And I always wanted to wrestle the Dallas Sportatorium. And yeah, I thought it was some big fancy place, but again, the locker rooms were not what you think. And don't know this. That ring in the Dallas Sportatorium does not move. It is bolted to the floor.
I heard part of the reason was that there was a hole under the ring. Is that true? That there was like a big ditch under the ring, sort of?
I think so. I didn't see it, and I didn't go under that ring. So, yeah. The other thing was, if you noticed, you didn't see a lot of guys bumping like they do in AEW or WWE or any other organization, because that ring was like taking bumps out on the sidewalk.
Right. Wow.
It didn't give at all. It
old
was
school.
Stiff.
Yeah.
It was more than old school. It was Fred Flintstone ring. It was brutal. Brutal.
Now, would you consider that worse, or Bill Watts around his time in WCW worse? Like when it came to like the outside of the ring and the pavement.
Okay, what now?
What do you mean? Like the no mats?
Because around that time, Bill Watts came to WCW and he basically just took away the mats. Now, was that worse when you were in Global or back in WCW? Like, what would you consider worse?
Global.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I got to wrestle a lot of different guys, made new friends. There was a nice gym there. There was a nice restaurant. The hotel was good. They treated me really good. They gave me Bruce Prichard as a manager. I defeated Jerry Lynn for the global light heavyweight title. They did give me some airtime. I mean, it was really good. You would think that the creators, and of course they are watching from the WWF, would see this and go, hey, maybe we should do something with Barry. But, I mean, they did, but years later. So, yeah. But
that's something I never really understood. You know, why you didn't have a push there, like a bigger push. I really enjoyed your push, you know, working with Candido, but it's something I never understood. Because, you know, I always, obviously TV matches are different than working house show matches. Like, you'd go in there for 3-4 minutes, but on the house shows, you'd be able to actually show your craft way more. And that's where it became, you know, grew a huge appreciation for you as a wrestler, and discover that you have a lot, you know, more moves than just going out there and taking bumps for 3 minutes and then, you know. So it's like I never understood why you weren't didn't get, but
you know, I get that asked a lot on interviews and from fans, and I honestly could say I really don't know. I mean, sometimes I'm a smartass and I say you need to go ask Vince, because think about it. If I wasn't training, if I didn't look the part, if I failed drug tests, if I couldn't work, because I mean, there's some guys up there they pushed and they didn't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch. So that's the nature of the business, the politics. Not everybody could be a superstar, but I think they could have did more with me. But I'm grateful. I still fulfilled my dream. The only thing left in my career is to be a coach for a major organization, because I will teach like Malenko taught me. And I really think I could add some flavor to the mix. I really do. I'm not trying to take anybody's job or do anything. I'm just trying to add to the production. It's almost like my matches. People say, oh, you got to get yourself over and this over. See, guys don't understand. The bottom line, the secret is, and it's an easy secret. Don't worry about you. Don't worry about anything. Worry about getting the match over.
Right.
There's a difference.
Yep.
Get the match over. Not your ego, not your gimmick, unless you're told elsewise, because if you don't, you'll be replaced. But the bottom line is get the match over. That means get the fans involved, get your opponent, get yourself, get the referee. You got to get the match over. And that requires psychology and hard work, not just punch, kick, run to the ring with some makeup on and shake the top rope and be all blown up.
You're right. So in was it 1993? You got a chance to work with Chris Candido, where you got your first. I guess I wouldn't really consider it your first television win because they did air some on like primetime, but they were building it up that you never won a match, but then you surprised Chris Candido, aka Skip. How did that come about, and where did that all come from? Because it seemed like it was a long time coming.
We just had matches, and
Yep.
I think it was a match at the Bradley Center in Milwaukee, and I think it was reported back to the office to do something with this. And I walked into TV. I don't remember if it was State College, Pennsylvania, or Wilkesboro, but Kevin Nash walks up to me, and he's behind the scenes. He's the world champion. He's in that shooting clique. You know what I mean? And he goes up to me and says, "You're going to win tonight." And I said, I thought it was a rib, so I went with it. I said, "Oh, cool, great." I don't believe him, but I'll go with it. And then, I don't know, an hour or two later, the catering was all cleaned up, and there was some tables, some round tables there, and it wasn't an enclosed area. I mean, people are walking by and everything. And, "Hey, Pat needs to talk to you in catering." I said, "Okay." I'm going, "Oh, God, what's this about?" Great. And he says, "Hey, we're going to do this thing with you. I don't know how long it'll go. We're going to do this, do this, do this." And they went over to finish. And I said, "Holy crap." I mean, I was just, beside myself, but I didn't want to mark out for myself, or, I just wanted to get it done right.
Right.
And it must have worked because I was on every pay-per-view. I was the captain of my team at Survivor Series. I was in Royal Rumble. I was in Your House matches. I was at WrestleMania in Anaheim. I was on the celebrity softball team. I was at the Slammies. I mean, it went hard for over a year, and I guess they liked it, and it was really cool. I just wish it could have prolonged like everybody else. They repackage you. They could prolong it. They could do whatever they want. I don't know what the deal was. I didn't have heat. I didn't break any rules. Maybe like Jim Cornette says, I was too good. I was too nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. So my other thing is they kind of took that gimmick, or they changed your gimmick up and kind of, with the glasses, the pocket protector. Like, what was that all about? And who came up with that? I'm sure that wasn't you. No.
No, it wasn't me. I don't know who came up with that. There was a lot of stuff behind closed doors, the ring music, all that I'll never know about.
Yeah.
And, it's almost a disrespect thing, because I've been around. You could have talked to me more about it, a little bit more about it, but that's fine. I mean, if that's the way you want to handle your business, that's fine. I'm sure if it was Shawn Michaels or Hulk Hogan or Hacksaw Duggan or whatever, they would have more of a powwow. But I don't know what the disrespect factor was, but fine. I mean, that's fine if that's what you want to do. Yeah, it wasn't. I don't know whose ideas these were. Probably that goofball Vince Russo or Eric Bischoff.
Yeah. I thought that was really weird because it just, it kind of turned into like a comedy act at a point. And then they teamed you with Hakushi. You were trying to Americanize Hakushi, and it was just, what's going on here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was like Kurt Angle and other people in this business. I'm a true professional.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're worried about your win-loss record and you're marking out for yourself, maybe you need to go up to UFC and have a 30-second match with Brock Lesnar, and he'll teach you what the difference is between pro wrestling and MMA.
Right.
So, that's what guys, they almost, it's not like I don't care. It's being a pro.
Right.
Kurt Angle's the ultimate pro. Unbelievable. A man that won, he's way ahead of anybody in the wrestling business. Why? I mean, I take this very serious. When you're an Olympic gold medalist, win it with a broken neck, you're the shit, man. You are the deal. I know that has nothing to do with pro wrestling, but what a resume, what a background. Transition into pro wrestling and does it within a year. Promos, look, work, flawless, frigging flawless. Only met him once. Admire his work. I saw him put over in a 12-minute match on TNA, Jay Lethal. Nothing against Jay Lethal. He's a good worker. I would love to wrestle him. He seems like a really good guy, and his impersonations of people are award-winning.
Yeah, he's hilarious. He worked independents around this area for years before, making it big. Going to TNA and Ring of Honor and stuff.
Yeah,
so, he was always, you could just tell there was something there that he was going to be bigger than, his. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Kurt put him over right in the middle. He put that Baron Corbin or whatever his name is right in the middle.
Yeah.
It's not that you don't care. You're being a pro. And back in the day, if you didn't want to put somebody over and you're there with Eddie Graham, you're getting fired. Get your bags and get the hell out. And that's the way it should be. If you did that more, or if everybody got broken in Japan by the Giant Baba or Tenryu or somebody of that nature, you'd respect the business more.
Right.
So,
speaking of, we're talking Jay Lethal. We're talking about professional wrestling today. Do you keep up with the product today?
I keep up with products that resemble my work. If I'm flipping the channels and Jay Lethal is on there with, I don't know everybody there. Let's just say he's Jay Lethal is working. Guy from, well, he's not there. He's with, and I don't know why they don't do anything with him. He's with Vince, Bobby Roode.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I like his. Yeah, I like his work. I'm going to stop and watch.
Yeah.
If it's a clown match, if it's a cartoon match with a goofy finish, I can't learn from that.
Right.
I just want to get into a good story told. I want to see a wrestling match. I want to see submissions. I want to see covers. I want to see you damage the guy's leg, but you're working his back. That's a mistake. Why aren't you working his leg? I want to see that. It keeps me active and motivated, accountable, and still a passion for the business. That's why I want to be a coach. I know I would fit in. I know I would.
It's different today than it is. A lot of what they do doesn't necessarily make sense as opposed to back in the day. I'm a traditionalist when it comes to watching professional wrestling. I don't like comedy. I don't like death matches, stuff like that. I like to watch a good technical matches. That's why, I keep up with Ring of Honor. I keep up with New Japan for the most part. I try to, at least. But there's so much wrestling out there today. It's really hard to keep up on everything,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I do. I get to watch that. I get to watch All Elite. I don't get to watch. It all depends. If a certain football game is on, or the Housewives of Orange County are on, I'm going to have to put wrestling to the side that night. Did you get that? You guys didn't get that.
I did.
Okay, so you got
froze
wrestling.
Up a little bit. Did you freeze?
I don't. You got that Housewives of Orange County or Beverly Hills. So I think they come before wrestling.
That's understandable. I mean, I try to watch as much as I can, but at least for research for the podcast, at least. But I try to keep up. I try to just watch movies. Other than that, tell me. Why don't you tell everybody else what you're up to today, and if you have anything to plug?
Yeah, basically, I'm in the gym 6 days a week. I'm always training. I do a lot of I was doing a lot of meet and greets in the Northeast, but I go all over. I was in Missouri last month, and I do seminars on as far as teaching the business. As far as it's not all about taking bumps and being in the ring. It's outside of that ring, conducting yourself in a restaurant or a hotel or the locker room, which guys, they don't know any better. They think it's all, ha-ha and gaga. And in today's society, the next man up, you're going to lose your job or get arrested or something. So I do that, and I'm really strong on Cameo.com. I mean, my cameos are, I think I did 6 last night in a row. I had to keep up with it. And then YouTube, of course, and Facebook, and WWE.com, and then, of course, the WWE Network. So I've got a lot going on, and my ultimate, and to finish my career would be to coach. And I don't care who it's for. I prefer the WWE. Why? Because they pay really good money, and you could be there a while with loyalty, but then maybe you won't be there with loyalty. Who knows? As far as really what I like, the wrestling aspect, it would be AEW or Ring of Honor.
Right.
It's more my wheelhouse, and I really think I would add something to it. And these people that count me out, my answer to them is they don't know how to count.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Here you go. Is there anybody that you that you got your eye on as far as like younger professional wrestlers that you think that you could I know you mentioned Jay Lethal, but is there anybody that's younger today, maybe with Ring of Honor or wherever, AEW, that you think that you can help elevate as far as, the skill, the brains, your experience?
I can't single out anybody because I don't watch enough, but when I do watch, basically I'll see a mistake, but it may not be a mistake. It may be just that's the way I want to do it. And then some of mine are blatant, like that spot was messed up. You shouldn't have repeated it. It was slow motion. You doing a section bump. It's wrong. And then some of my stuff is personal preference, so it could go either way. So basically, I would be there to tweak it and praise it. I'm not all a Debbie Downer thing. I'm not all about that. But and you got to think of psychology too. I mean, there's a lot of great moves and flying outside the ring and whatnot, but that's not what it's all about either. Sometimes it's inside the square circle where it used to be, where everybody likes to see it.
A lot of these young kids probably, they look like they're going to break their necks doing some of those maneuvers.
They
and
will
it's just,
eventually.
I think, was it 2 weeks ago? And this was even in WWE. Jeff Hardy jumped, went over the ropes and cracked his skull on the freaking, the steel steps, like on his way over the ropes. And it's just, I don't even know how he got up after that, to be honest with you. The guy, and he's been doing it for years, probably over 20 years, these same maneuvers and bumping himself,
Well, some guys, that's their forte and they do it, and they don't know how to do other things.
Right.
You see what I'm getting at? They're limited. Yeah. Now, Jeff, nothing against Jeff.
Right.
But his work is limited to a part, like tables, ladders, and chairs, flying. Otherwise, unlike Matt, is more of a mat wrestler.
Right.
And can do the high flying.
Right.
So that's how I look at it. That's why he's got that. He's got the face paint. It's almost a cover up, and I'm not discrediting him. I'm not putting him down. It's just a little couple of limitations. What he does well. So good for him. He's been there a while.
Yeah, there's a reason he's still around. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just certain things. I mean, you just got to be careful with some of that stuff outside. It's not that you're afraid, you're being smart, because I mean, unless you're somebody high up their rank, I don't know how they're going to take care of you, your hospital bills, and do you have a position a year later? Not everybody gets that chance.
Right.
So,
all right. Is there anything you'd like to say before we exit?
No, I'm just wanted to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holiday, a Happy Hanukkah. I hope everybody's being accountable and safe. Wear your mask, social distancing. I don't need to preach this. If you don't need it, if you don't know this stuff, you're a dumbass. I mean, just follow the rules.
You're right.
It's easier to follow the rules than break them. I'm going to break them because I'm not going to wear my. That's not the way to go. That maybe was in 6th grade, but not now. You're a grown ass man or woman. But just I can't wait to see everybody at the shows. This comes back, and the meet and greets and the seminars, and it was a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you.
And I need to leave you with 2 things.
Sure.
One is I'm Mr. Technical and you're not. 2 is there's a lot of great wrestlers, I think, in this organization. But in this world of pro wrestling, there's a lot of great wrestlers. But Barry Horowitz, Mr. Technical, wrestles great.
There you go.
And that, I leave you with this. And I'll
Thank
give
you
you a
very-
double one. No, you can't do that because I could sue you for gimmick infringement.
There you go.
Oh,
Thank
man.
you very much, Barry. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.